Hello, good morning, welcome to the channel, and welcome to a wrap-up. So we're today going to be talking about all of the books that I read in October. There's 27 of them, so we do have quite a few to get through, and I prefer to film these in kind of a rapid-fire style, just so speed reviews of everything. I'm not going to get into too many nitty-gritties for these, just a brief overview of the plot and of my feelings. Honestly, like, going forward, so honestly, the main reason is just, oh, my cat's with us. The main reason is just like I read a lot in a month and I don't want to be sitting here for an hour filming. I know I will be, but I don't want the video to be like an hour long, if that makes sense. I want to try and get through this as quick as possible and not have both of us just sitting here forever. So yeah, like it just, I don't know. Yeah, I just find it like, I don't want to have like an hour and a half video just talking about this. So we do rapid fire to try and make this as easy as possible. So welcome to the channel. My name's Kat. I do a lot of beauty, book, and lifestyle content. And yeah, let's get into this wrap up for the month. So like I said, I read 27 books, which is pretty average for me. Like that tends to be kind of what I read in an average month, to be honest. So overall, though, I feel like it was a slightly disappointing month just because I don't know, there's quite a few 2 stars. Like I think I had 4 or 5 2 stars, which is not very common for me. So let's get it immediately into it. So first off, I read The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. This was the final of his like secret projects that came out last year, and this is also one I was excited to get into it because I heard good things, and it's also supposed to be connected to the Cosmere. I gave this one 3 stars. I think it kind of fell within his, you know, like humorous, not quite serious books, which are not really my favorite. I vastly prefer his like very epic fantasy, like The Way of Kings. So anything that kind of ends up being like a little more unserious and ridiculous, which kind of tended to be all of his secret projects, not as big a fan. I think this will rank like second lowest, so 3 out of 4 in terms of where my enjoyment of the secret projects was. But yeah, this wasn't really it for me. And in it, we're just following somebody who's on like a planet that basically has like such intense sunlight that if you're within the sun rays, you immediately get incinerated. So the entire society has like basically ships that allow them to travel through the air and constantly are maneuvering out of the sunlight. Next was All the Lies. I think this is by Rena Kent, maybe. It's like a girl who wakes up with no memory and she's told all of these things about her past life. She lives with like a foster father and her fiance, and yeah, like she's in college, but it really felt like it was actually like a private high school. Everything felt kind of young, except like it was a bit more explicit, I guess, in some ways, but like there was just a lot that I don't know, I didn't enjoy that much. I gave it 3 stars because the writing was fine, but it just wasn't really that interesting, and there was all these like supposed like mysteries and stuff going on, but none of it actually like felt it's like something I cared about. And also just like, yeah, we're learning about her as a character. That was a big thing, is she's learning about like what she was before she had this memory loss. And another 3 star, The Blood is Love by Karina Halle. This is just a vampire romance. It's the second book in a little duology, and we're just following like this girl who, so in this world, when you're a woman, if you are biologically a vampire at the age of 21, you come into your powers. So she didn't know she was one. When she turns 21, she becomes a vampire, and she quickly gets like taken in by this den of vampires who are like significantly older and big power players in this world. So that's just that. She has a romance and they're trying to take down like a king of vampires or something. It was fine. I definitely preferred the first book in this duology. I can't remember what its name is. I'll pop it up if I remember. But this one just didn't really go anywhere that interesting to me. But when I did love Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. This was the sequel to The House on the Cerulean Sea, which I loved. It very much is cozy fantasy, and I've heard a lot of people describe it as like middle grade for adults. 100% agree. So it's taking place in this world where magical beings are very ostracized, and basically, you know, like there's certain things that are similar to Harry Potter, but like all magical beings have to be registered and they're basically demonized in the public. Everybody thinks they're dangerous, but they're just like average people trying to live their lives. So in this one, we're following an orphanage where we're following in the original book, it's an orphanage, and we have an inspector from the government who comes in with all these preconceived notions and very quickly realizes like how non-dangerous these children are and falls for the caretaker. Second book, it is the two of them, the caretaker and former government employee. It is them, again, living their life and really, really battling the government because they're trying to shut down the orphanage, and at the same time, they are trying to adopt all of these orphans who they'd been raising before. I give it 5 stars. It's very cozy. I cried. It's one of those books that it just tugs on your heartstrings so well, and it is very much a repetition of a lot of things that happened in the house in the Cerulean Sea. That one works so well for me that I do not complain about that. I am happy to relive that again. Like, I will not complain by any means for that. So yeah, 5 stars. Apprentice to the Villain. It was the sequel to Assistant to the Villain, which came out last year, and I really enjoyed. Like, a very silly romantasy book that it's very, very silly, very cozy in some ways, but I deeply enjoyed it. We're just following a girl who becomes an assistant to this realm's villain and working in his office and all of these things. The first book ended on a major cliffhanger, and then in this one, she's essentially becoming his apprentice. Like, she's really getting involved in all the nitty-gritty details of like what he does, because he's vaguely like the villain, but he's really trying to take down the king, and there's all these plots that are going on, and it's very ridiculous in so many ways. It's very silly. It's one of those books that, like, I do not see this being in for anyone, so being for everyone, because it is very, very silly, and I think you have to go into it knowing that and not taking it too seriously. I gave it 4 stars because I thought it was super fun. The Invisible Hour, I gave 2 stars. I don't remember a single thing about this. Don't remember what this book was about. That's a bad sign. So yeah, I gave that 2 stars. And honestly, I have nothing else to say. Yeah, completely forgettable. Didn't enjoy it, clearly. The Year of Magical Thinking, I gave 4 stars. It was a memoir by this author in the year following her husband's sudden death and a basically hospitalization of her daughter for a really intense like brain infection and sickness. And I definitely thought this was like incredible, like incredibly heart-wrenching. It got me. There was a lot of conversations about grief and just mourning the like life that she previously had and how she's going to try and figure out to move on. Just all these things that, like, following a 40-year marriage with her husband, that very suddenly, like, everything in her life has changed and she doesn't know how to move on. Really enjoyed it. I do think that, like, so it was a hard read in that sense. It was just very much about grief, and that's really the essence of it. I don't really think it went too many places, but I do think it was a very good exploration of grief. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars, and it did make me cry. Dungeons and Drama was like one of the cutest little YA romances I've read in so long, and I don't know, I am definitely like a huge Dungeons and Dragons girl, so like of course anything to do with Dungeons and Dragons, I'm gonna get excited to read it. But in this one, like, we're following a young girl. She is a drama girl through and through, but she is not suspended. She's, why am I thinking on timeout? She's grounded. Oh my god, this is an adult with no children. She's grounded and basically told that she's not allowed to do any of her normal activities, but in the meantime she has to work at her not estranged father but kind of like not super close father's game store. So he is very into, hi baby girl, he's very into like board games and all gaming things and nerd culture. Oh, come on. Oh. And he has like this game store that she's never really gotten into because it's just really not her interest. And so that's her punishment, and she has to work there. While she's there, she kind of meets like a bunch of teenagers her own age, and they quickly convince her to join their Dungeons and Dragons group. She gets really into it. She has a romance with one of the guys, and just, it was super cute through and through. I love it. If you're a Dungeons and Dragons fan and like are okay reading YA, I definitely would recommend this one. And then I don't have my copy of it, but I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, gave it 5 stars. I love Emily Henry books, so not a surprise. But I gave my copy to my friend to read. But this one we're following, so they say it's a funny story because it's kind of ridiculous, but there's a woman whose fiance leaves her for his best friend, and so the woman who's left and the best friend's boyfriend end up basically moving in together because they're like, shit, I don't know what to do. So they end up becoming roommates, and the ex-fiance and ex-girlfriend very, very quickly get engaged and are sending off invites for like 3 months away. So in a panic, our main character basically is like, oh, you know what? Funny story. We're actually dating. We're roommates and we decide to start dating. We're gonna go to your wedding as date, and then they end up just kind of like fake dating, becoming best friends, and getting together. I really enjoyed it. I liked the main characters. I thought they were like actually interesting characters to follow, and I really enjoyed the romance. I thought this was adorable. Really great like story of people coming into their own and like actually, you know, realizing what they want in life. Yeah, 5 stars. This is disappointing to me. This is so disappointing in so many ways. I give this 2 stars. I have not in any way gotten into this duology. So this is We Free the Stars. The first book was We Hunt the Flames, and it's a like Middle Eastern inspired YA duology. We're following like, I don't even know like how to describe it. There's magic, there's like 2 people falling in love who shouldn't be. I don't know. There's nothing about this duology that did it for me, unfortunately. Really couldn't get into it. Really couldn't find anything that I enjoyed. The writing is nice, I will say that. Hafez Fazal like really can write a beautiful sentence, but nothing about the plot actually did it for me. I didn't connect to the characters. I didn't connect to anything happening. Even now I'm like, I don't remember too much of what happened because it really just went in and out of my head because I was so emotionally uninvested. So 2 stars. By the way, 2 stars, books I don't enjoy. It takes a lot for me to give a book 1 star. 1 star is a book I actively hate. I am offended by it. I am angry. So usually like 90% of the time, the lowest I will give a book is 2 stars. Then we have A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. So in this one, we have a world where basically humans are in charge. Anybody who has any like elf blood or anything has been basically put into hiding, or like they've been hunted to extinction kind of thing. And there's a variety of halflings. So there have partial elf blood in there. We're following our main character who is a halfling, and she's been recruited to be kind of like the King's Blade, which is essentially his assassin. She does all the work for him. And so there's a mysterious figure called the Shadow who's like going against the crown, and she's been sent to hunt him down. But while there, she kind of realizes that like, you know, she much more agrees with what he's doing and is kind of like gets wrapped up into this realm of like, maybe we should work against the king. I thought it was decent. It was decent. It was just like really her kind of like figuring out who she is, learning more about her world and all of these things that she never knew because she's kind of been raised by the humans this entire time, doesn't really know what else is out there in the world because she's been so sheltered of like not having access to anything else. I gave 3 stars. Thought it was decent. I won't be continuing on in the series because it wasn't enough for me to be that interested, but it was decent. Then I did The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. This is one I am disappointed. So a lot of people have told me that the first book in this series is a textbook. There's like no other way to describe it. It's a textbook that is going to feel like hell to get through. And I agree. I very much agree. It was like, I give it 3 stars. It wasn't terrible, but it was boring. And it was very much like you felt like you were reading a history of this realm. Like that was my biggest complaint, is I feel like I read the entire history of this world and it felt like it was very much a prologue to what's to come, which I think it is in a sense. So I think from here, the other books in this series, the action really takes off and we really see like the meat of this story. But honestly, after reading the first one, I don't know if I want to continue. Like, I don't know how much I retained for the fact that like, it was just all of these constant battles, this constant maneuvering and stuff. And it wasn't that interesting in a lot of ways because it was just like, okay, this king's empowered now, this one and this going with the emperor and like here are the people fighting. It wasn't interesting enough that for it to like 100% stick in my head and 100% be something that I'm like that invested in. So I don't know if I want to continue on in the series. If you've read it, if you've read the Dandelion Dynasty, please let me know if you actually think it's one that could be potentially worthwhile to continuing on in. But right now I'm feeling like no. I'm feeling like I'm probably just going to stick with book 1 and call it a loss. Next, so Blood of Fire, book 3 in the Witcher series, or Blood of Oath. I grabbed the wrong book. Okay, 1 second. Baptism of Fire. This is book 3. This was by far the most disappointing book in the series for me. I gave this one 3 stars. The other ones have been very solid 4 stars. I've been very thoroughly enjoyed. This one, it felt filler. I have to say, it felt very filler. It don't feel like enough happened in this one for me to be that invested in it in a sense. Like, it just felt very much like it was a filler book. We're just waiting for the next action to happen. We're just waiting for the next step of the story. And yeah, unfortunately, was not as into this one as I hoped that I would be. I'm hoping the rest of the series continues on like the level that I enjoyed, but this was a disappointment. one of the weirder books I've read. So Glitter by Shannon Mayer. This is the sequel to Golden, which I read a few months ago, and that was really weird. So in that one, we're basically following a werewolf shifter who gets like cursed into being a golden retriever, and through there she meets like she's at a hound, gets adopted by someone who she smells and recognizes as her mate, and it goes off the rails. So same kind of premise here. I think she breaks the curse, maybe. I can't remember. She somewhat breaks it. But in this one, the the Norse gods get involved, and they are trying to prevent the end of the world. So like there's this whole thing of like the end of days are coming and she has to break the curse, but if she's killed by something, it goes off the rails. It is not at all what I expected. It was one of the weirdest books I've read in that sense, where just like you think it's just like this little book about a werewolf shifter being cursed, and then it comes into like this huge battle for the end of days with Norse gods. I give it 3 stars. It was enjoyable. It was fun. It was just insane. Next I'll talk about Ensnared, which was one I actually really enjoyed. So this is a post-apocalyptic world, and we're following a main character who's been living on her own for, I think it's 7 years since the world has been destroyed. But she's living on her own. She's at this point when we started somehow got the attention of this like military band, and maybe not military, but like bandit band, and she's running from them. And she comes across this other group of men who basically are like, we will protect you. We will take care of you. Come home with us. If you contribute to our household, you will always be welcome. But the catch is, last time a woman came, there was a lot of jealousy between us 4 men. I think it's 4, it could be 5. There was a lot of jealousy between us men. So we're gonna have to all equally share you. And if you want to come stay with us, that is the way. You have to accept that you're not just one of ours, you are all of us. And can I say I deeply enjoyed it. I like a why choose romance. I am a simple girl who will always enjoy why choose romance, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So it's just our main character. She's in her post-apocalyptic world, and they're living their life, and she's starting romances with all of these men, and trying to figure out what happens, like just who all of them are. They're a group of former soldiers who somehow survived this like end of world and have been living just in this compound they created. Very fun. I will 100% say I was thoroughly into it. So I'm a simple girl, it doesn't take much to entertain me. The Temptation of Magic. This is one, it was fine. Like another 3 stars. We're following a family who's in hiding. They basically have this like a certain type of magic that they're a creature called the Imperials, which basically they're like the elite of this world, and they're able to kind of like shift into any type of magical being depending on who they're around. So her family's in hiding, but these Imperials are also kind of like the people who hunt down any dangerous magical beings. So one comes to town, and unfortunately our main character gets involved because the reason they're there is something that she is like very deeply embroiled in, and she kind of ends up helping out the investigation. It was fine. It was a YA kind of romance book. So yeah, I don't know. I have nothing else to say. It was fine. 3 star. Yeah. When I say these are speed reviews, like hello, very speedy. Okay. So the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. This is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. So it doesn't end up being a direct sequel, just more of a continuation of this world that we explored in The Handmaid's Tale, and really like getting into the lives of people who are living within this world, and just all the different, like one thing. So I thought this was super interesting. We are following 3 different perspectives. One of them is one of the aunts who are basically the people who are in charge of the handmaids and like inflict all of these strict rules on the women who live within the society. We're following a daughter who lives like with one of the high-ranking generals, and then we follow somebody who lives in Canada and is kind of removed from like what is going on in the former US, and just ends up getting kind of involved through like political means. But I thought this was fantastic. Really continuation of The Handmaid's Tale in a lot of ways, and just more of an exploration of a lot of the themes that were addressed and a lot of the ideas, just really bringing a lot more things to the forefront and a lot more of like how the society came to be, because we do get to see a little bit more of the background and exactly like what went into making this handmaid system. And I thought it was fantastic. Like 5 stars through and through. I thought it was horrifying, but also incredibly fascinating and just so ridiculously well written. Really good. I give The Handmaid's Tale like 5 stars too. There's no doubt that it's just like such a ridiculously good book. And then we have On Beauty by Zadie Smith. I give this 4 stars. And this is one, it's interesting. It was very much like the story of a family and the drama that is following them, their like unhappiness and what is just going on. So we're following like, there's 2 feuding families. The fathers are both like competing academics. They're in the same field. They work at the same school and they really like have different ideologies on what's going on. And both of the families have so much internal drama, like within themselves, but also with each other. And we're following like the history of this in a sense. And also just like what's going on, like all the children, everything. Yeah. And it's like, it asks questions about what life does to love. It's really interesting because we follow a lot of things of like how deeply this feud is impacting each family and just really, really intense things that are going on with both of them. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really, really good, profound, very heavy at times, very hard hitting for certain things. Very good, very good. Play Along by Liz Tomford. So this one we're following the younger brother from one of the previous couples and this like person who's worked for the like a team medical staff, basically, who he's had a crush on for years. She like literally for years he's been like obsessed with her and in love with her. So they run into each other in Vegas, and after a night of very heavy drinking, she kind of like admits that so her ex-fiance is now dating her stepsister and they're about to get married, and she's like, I just want to get married before them. I want to one up them. And they end up getting married in Vegas, and because there's a bit of a scandal that comes with this, they decide to stay married because it will like, basically they were told that if this was a fake marriage or if it was a mistake, just like a drunken mistake, she's going to lose her job because of the ethics that are involved and the fact that she's a medical staff member who works on our baseball player who she gets with. And yeah, then so they pretend to be married. It's great. I love a fake marriage book. I love like a little marriage of convenience, fake marriage, like fake dating. And I really enjoyed this one quite a bit. I liked the characters a lot. I liked seeing like, we had great cameos from characters from all the other books in this world. And I really, really enjoyed like every book that's been in this series. So this one, very, very enjoyable. Very, very much like the same idea. If you've read any of the other books in this series, you're getting the same idea, but still very enjoyable. We're definitely reaching the point where I'm losing steam and like the reviews are going to go faster because I just want to be done filming. Mixed Signals, we're following 2 people in this small town. So this is a small town series that takes place on a Christmas tree farm. Love it. The main female character in this one is the baker at this farm. And after a terrible night out, she runs into our male main character. And basically after ranting, spilling her life to him, they decide they're going to like practice date on each other. So they're going to take a month. They're going to go on like little practice dates, rate each other, see like if they have any advice on what the other person's doing wrong. And at the end of it, peace out. Of course, things end up going more seriously. They fall in love, you know. It was super cute. Really, really cute. Yeah, I don't know. Both characters. It was just like a really sweet romance. Quick review. Blood Song. Really enjoyed this one. Another 4 stars. Also, I don't know if I mentioned 4 stars. We're following, so the son of a warlord in this world, he's given up to one of the 6 religious orders that basically, because I think his father is trying to like bolster his relationship with religion, or like bolster his relationship with the king by showing how devoted he is to the realm by giving up his only son. And this group of religion, this sect that he's put into, is basically like assassins, or like the fighters for the religion. So they hunt down heretics and they fight for the realm. They are the like most dangerous of the most dangerous, the people who like, you know, you do not want to go up against because they are ridiculously scary everything. And we're following his journey as a 10-year-old boy from that into adulthood. And the meat of the story is very much just like an assassin school. So, you know, he's being trained on the ways of becoming a warrior, all these things. And that is like my thing through and through. I love a good like assassin school story. So really, really enjoyed it just for that. By the end, there was a lot of war at the end parts that did kind of lose me a little bit because I don't enjoy that as much. But the assassin school part of it was great. That like enough just is something that I thoroughly enjoy. So yeah, 4 stars. We're getting close to the end, friends. Dark by 4. We're following this world where there's like different, like, I don't know if they call them phantoms. What do they call them? There's monsters, I guess. I don't really see, but it's interesting. So there's 2 people. There's an exorcist in training, and then this other guy who's like the black sheep of his family because he doesn't have any of these powers. And they end end up in some kind of accident where all of our exorcist and training's powers transfer to the other guy, and then they just are trying to figure out what to do with that. That is a terrible description. I actually really enjoyed this book. I gave it 3 stars, but it was very, very deeply enjoyable, and it was just a lot about like them trying to figure out what went wrong and trying to figure out like what's going on in this world, because there's this vast like surge of these new dangerous monsters, and they're trying to figure out where they came from and also like what is causing them. But yeah, this was good. 3 stars. So Evicted, this was a very, very hard-hitting nonfiction. I gave this 5 stars. It was truly fantastic, but we're telling the story of one of the poorest cities in the US and the story of this like cycle of evictions and poverty that a lot of people get stuck in. So the renting system here is like very, very messed up in a lot of ways, and it's telling the stories of like how easy it is for people to get evicted from their homes, and if they do, like just this terrible cycle that it can send people in, and all these consequences that it can have on the family, and just the terrible living situations that people end up going into because they're desperate to find something. Really, really hard read. I'll say like very, very hard to read, but it was incredible. It was very, very good. 5 stars through and through, like 0 doubt about it. Would highly recommend reading it because it gives, at least for me, for somebody who's like, I'm not from the US and also I have never lived this type of life, very good insight into the type of lives that a lot of people are forced to live and how it really, this cycle of poverty can really affect a family and people. On a lighter note, next, Phantasma. I gave this 4 stars. It was very fun. Not, I don't think as good as everybody's been hyping it up for, but this was super fun. We're following like this weird magical competition based on different levels of hell and different sins, and the winner ends up like getting basically whatever they want. But we're just following a girl who's going through this magical competition. She gets involved with a ghost, kind of a ghoul ghost thing, but they form a romance while in this game, and it's super fun, super fun. Honestly would recommend this one through and through. Next, An Academy for Liars. I gave this 3 stars. I thought that this had a fantastic dark academia vibe. It basically is the school for people who have the ability to mind control others, and there's all of these like secrets within this school. There's a lot of things going on, but it was so fun. It was just like, it had this nice creepy vibe that I really appreciated, and I thought was so perfect for the fall time. It unfortunately didn't go like really far enough in anything for me to rate it higher, but I thought very fun for what it was. Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is a sequel to Divine Rivals, which was a huge hit last year. This one slightly worse for me. I gave Divine Rivals 5 stars. This ended up being only a 4 because I felt like a lot of it was rehashing things that happened in the first. But in this one, where basically there's a war between gods. It feels like a very 1950s inspired kind of world, but there's gods and they've come out of their internal slumber and are fighting. And we follow basically 2 rival journalists. In the first book, they have a romance. This one, they're separated, and a lot of the tropes that happened in the first one I felt were repeated here. Still enjoyed it a lot, I will say. Enjoyed it a lot. Thought fantastically written. Love this world. Very interesting. Just not enough unique new things happening. And we only have 2 more to go, so let's go. Mistress of Lies, gave 2 stars. This one, I couldn't get into it. There was nothing about it that I enjoyed. We're following a world where there's like blood workers, so they're basically not quite, they're not explicitly said to be vampires, but they have like blood magic. And we're following a few main characters. One of them is like the long lost heir to this family who's thought to be disappeared. He has a unique power because of this. One of them is I would say bloodthirsty in a sense, but a very power hungry noble who basically has fought her way to the top and is investigating this like crime because there's all these dead bodies that are coming around. It was okay. Just nothing about it like stuck in my head. As I was reading it, it was going immediately out. There was nothing about it that was gripping my attention, nothing that I cared enough about, nothing that I like actually was interested in continuing on. It was just 2 stars through and through. It was not great. And then the last one is another one that's 2 stars, unfortunately. So there was a lot of 2 stars this month. But this was Spookily Yours, and I read this on Halloween because I wanted to have a very spooky last day of the month. And this was bad. It was just such an underwhelming romance. So we have a witch. She adopts a cat, and turns out that this cat is a man trapped in cat form, and it's a romance between them. I will say this scared me, but I was really worried about this. But he turns back into a human around 30% in, and then he decides to be her roommate, and they have romance. But So first off, I went in very scared that it was a romance between her and a cat. But after he turns into a man, there is such little like plot to the book. There is nothing going on. They're roommates and they're just slowly falling in love. There's no tension. There's nothing. There's like this minor plot of like he's there for a reason, but it's so ridiculously minor and doesn't end up going anywhere really. And also like it's so disappointing because it's just like there's a throw off line here and there. So it's not adding tension to the book. That's the worst part. It's just like there was no reason to really care going forward. There was no tension. There was nothing that was interesting. No reason that like I was caring in any way. And it was just boring in that sense because even the romance, there wasn't enough in it to make me compelled. But yeah, 2 stars. So that was our insanely quick, ridiculously quick reviews of all 27 books I read this month. We're gonna see if I can get this video to under 30 minutes. I'd be so proud of myself if I managed to knock this down to here. But thank you for watching. There are some of these books that I've talked about in vlogs that are coming. Going forward, there'll be a lot more, like majority of the books that I'll be reading should be in vlogs. But thanks for watching. Please like this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books, but also let me know what was your favorite book that you read in October. And if you haven't already, I'd love if you would subscribe and keep an eye out for some videos coming soon. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.